Wizard versus Sorcerer. Neverwinter Nights. Building that checklist, asking that question, not only what are the primary attributes of these two classes, but is there really a difference between the two? If we're looking at a pure wizard, a pure sorcerer, is there a difference one over the other? Now, I enjoy playing both classes, and most of my Neverwinter Night run-throughs focus on wizard, sorcerer, or a monk. When I play a hybrid type class, I will do a fighter/wizard for the role play, for the fun, but certainly it is in no capacity an optimized class. I know that going in, and we're going to post that vlog up and cover that perspective of looking at it. The wizard and the sorcerer both pull from the same set of spells. And the idea here, Neverwinter Nights, is based on the D&D 3.5 3.x rule set, which if you're coming into the game from playing the current edition of D&D 5/next, there are some things that are familiar, but 3.5 was very much a Power Gamer Munchkin type system. It's about the attributes, it's about the bonuses, it's about the min-max. If you're a fighter, it's about getting +5, +8, +10, +15, +20 to attack, to damage. DC checks are everything. The system is simplified down to a difficulty check. I'm going to try and knock you down. What's the difficulty check? The monster, the encounter, makes the saving throw. The more the bonus I have, the modifiers, the greater the difficulty check. So from that perspective, when we look at spells, they break down into three areas. Damage dealing spells. That's going to be your bread and butter. That's going to be like 90% of the wizard and the sorcerer. At the lower levels, casting magic missile. At the lower medium levels, lightning bolt and fireball. At the higher levels, throwing out these damage dealing spells to deal as much damage DC as possible, whether that's through wisdom or that's through charisma, wizard/sorcerer. The second set of spells, buff spells or control spells, invisibility, concealment, moving fast, those type of spells which affect either an NPC henchman or yourself. We're going to utilize these. And then there's what I call the role-playing spells, which they work, but they're really very situational, or they're not really well implemented, like on the lower levels, because I'm being careful not to give away any spoilers. Does light really make a difference? Does charm person really make a difference from that perspective? So you can take these spells for the fun, for the role playing, or you could just completely skip them and not even really notice anything different other than maybe a little bit of an Easter egg or a very, very specialized dialogue option. So if we're always trading up, as you level up, you're going to look to memorize the next most potent damage dealing spell. So I'm going to rock Magic Missile as long as I can, but as soon as I gain access to Fireball and Lightning Bolt, I'm taking them. That doesn't mean I'm going to drop Magic Missile. It just means I've moved up to that next tier. So from that ability, and Neverwinter Nights, it's a role-playing game, but front and center, it's a Dungeons & Dragons combat game against iconic monsters. Combat is everything. The sorcerer has the slight advantage because they can cast more per day. You can spam out more per day, and while you have less spells that you can pick and you don't have that flexibility of memorization, as you level up, you do get a lot of spells. And you are going to find yourself swapping out lower level damage spells for higher ones, taking as you take higher level summons, you drop the lower level summons. So eventually, as you get to mid and end game, you are going to have enough damage dealing spells, enough buff spells and control spells, and one or two like NPC roleplay type spells. Now, the opposite side for the wizard is they gain the spells quicker. Sorcerer is always a little bit behind. At first glance, this seems like a big deal. But it's really not, because playing through the different modules of Neverwinter Nights, you're going to level up at a pretty steady pace, And while you will be a little bit behind, it's not always noticeable. It's not like you're not going to gain access to certain spells as you play through because you're behind. They're just not going to be as fast. And if you're really concerned about that, there are ways to get the maximum amount of experience, not only through running quests, but summons and henchmen, and how that's divided up, knowing when to drop them, knowing when to keep them, knowing when to take certain quests, when and where. You can close that bridge, so to speak, even closer. Okay, skills. Now, this is the big difference. This is the big decision that we need to make. The Sorcerer is based on charisma. You can consider intelligence a dump stat or not. The game wants you to go in base with 12, so you've got +1 to give you enough skill points to rock out concentration, to rock out spellcraft, and to use persuasion. And the persuasion skill works beautifully with charisma. Absolutely, perfectly. So the ability to open up dialogue options and get more experience and utilize that. But you're not going to have any of the other skills in the game because you're just going to either dilute the pool or just not have enough skill points. Having +2, +4 in multiple skills is never going to work because 3.5, 3.x D&D, again, is min-max. I want to be chucking in, 1 or 2 skill points every single level as I level up. So by level 10, by level 15, I'm +8, +10, +15, plus higher through magic items in these skills. So I can always beat that DC check running, operating behind the scenes. The wizard, having so many skill points based on intelligence and a high intelligence, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, building it up, you are going to be able to take the primary skills of the wizard, concentration, spellcraft, lore, utilize that, but you are going to have enough skill points to have significant numbers in other areas. Even being cross-class and paying more points, you're going to have so many skill points, you're like, I don't know what to do with them. You're going to put them in a lot of different things, similar to the rogue. So what this opens up is a lot of different role-playing options, a lot of little different bump options that, well, not necessarily, can be kind of fun. If you have a praise and you have lore, you'll get some more gold, and that's kind of neat. But eventually you'll have so much gold in the game, it doesn't even matter. You see certain magic items and you're like, is that a bug? How can I ever afford that? And then you're halfway through the saga and you're like, I can't even carry all this gold. It's crazy, the amount of gold. So none of those skills are going to be make or break. But from the role-playing perspective, it's kind of neat and it's kind of fun. Okay, so what class are we going to take now that we build that Tactica? When I am feeling pure destruction, arcane cannon, blasting, I go in with the Sorcerer. We're going to max charisma. We're going to work on constitution, get that up. We're just going to blast with spells and spells and spells. And my first primary clicky bar is just going to be like just devastating. When I feel like exploring more and role-playing more, I go with the wizard because I have the skill points that I can put in, and I can explore Charm Person. I can explore some of the lower level spells just to see like what if, and see what they interact and see what they do, even if they're not that great or necessarily game changing. If I feel like a more relaxed pace, I go with the wizard. If I feel like a more in your face, blow everything up, I go with the Sorcerer. So at first glance, it seems like there isn't much of a difference, but there's a subtlety to Tactica and a subtlety to play with how these two classes interact.